All right, so welcome back everyone. So in today's video, I want to talk about my stock photography earnings for the month of June 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so before getting into it, I just want to give you a quick update on what I've been doing for June going into July. And well, simply put, I've been doing a lot of stock photography. This is the most I've done in probably like 2 years. And I basically took a look at my stock portfolio and I looked and said, what are the images that are doing good? And I tried to replicate those and put a little spin on them, right? I don't want the exact same photos, but I don't want to vary too much because those images that are doing good for a reason. So yeah, I basically tried to recreate some of those images that are successful for me on the agencies. And I also branched out to, well, do something new, right? Do new images that I've never done before. And I've also gotten back into shooting family photos, well, photos of my family doing what, people typically do. Yeah, and I've uploaded a bunch of those to the stock agencies. I'll put some of those up now. So I also had quite the mishap trying to photograph myself cutting my hair, right? So in the process of cutting my hair and trying to take the photos, um, the blade guard fell off, right? And I was already in the motion of, doing this. And then the blade guard fell off and then a big old bald spot just appeared. That sucked because I had work the next day and I had to find a way to salvage my hairdo without, shaving the entire thing off because I would have to go really low in order to match the bald spot that was created. I mean, you can still see some of it right now, but it's not as bad as it once was. So it's about right there. Ignore the rest of it. That's just my natural balding. But I'll put up some of those images now. Yeah. I also started uploading to Deposit Photo. I actually was not accepted to Deposit Photo. I didn't apply there. But I've watched other people's earnings videos and, they've showed Deposit Photo for a while and I thought, why not give it a try? And I do like their submission process and it's quite easy. They also have like an AI tool that can automatically keyword your photos and I found that worked pretty well. It also titles the images and put a description on them. So well, they don't accept descriptions, so it titles the images. Yeah, I think their submission process is very good. It's nothing like Dreamstime it's nothing like Dreamstime. What I hate about Dreamstime is the fact that right now I have like 69 images sitting there because it's just such an arduous task to go through and select each of the images and process them, do whatever, choose the category. Most of the times they choose a category for you. But you have to go through every single one of them and click submit. Whereas on the other agencies, you can just, select all when you're sure the images are ready to be submitted and submit. Why do we have to go through every single photo? It's so tedious. Anyways, I digress. All right, so let's talk about Shutterstock. So overall, Shutterstock performed poorly for me in the month of June, and July is looking to be much of the same. I sold a total of 88 images in June, and let's talk about them. So the first image I want to talk about is an editorial shot, and I took this one way back in 2019. It has sold a bunch of times, but this is, I think, the first time I featured it in one of my reviews. So it's my cell phone on a computer keyboard, and on the screen you have Google Ads, you know, just the logo for Google AdSense and the word Google Ads. That one sold for $2.21. I think that was an on-demand sale or a single. The next image I want to talk about is one that was taken back in 2018. And it's just me pouring out a bunch of white pills into my hand from a orange pill bottle. And that one sold for 87 cents. And I do believe that was an on-demand sale. And keeping with that theme, the next image is just a bunch of pill bottles with the labels on them with all the, you know, protected information removed. And yeah, and that one sold for $2.94, also on demand. The next image that I want to talk about is a consistent performer for me on Shutterstock and Adobe Stock. And it's just a syringe going into a glass vial with a red cap, and it has a colorful background. And that one sold for $1.47. I did that just before or in and around the pandemic, the start of the pandemic, and ever since that's been doing quite well for obvious reasons. And last but not least, for Shutterstock, I want to talk about a series of images that sold for, you know, the typical 10 cents, and it's just composite images of my wife's eye, and layered on top I did some like laser and like heads-up display type of effect, and you can see them here. All right, and that pretty much rounds it out for Shutterstock. A very poor month for me overall. So I sold 88 images and I made $30.19. All right, so the next agency I want to talk about is Adobe Stock, and overall Adobe is the most consistent performer for me amongst all of the agencies. And for June, I sold a total of 154 images, and let's talk about a few of those. All right, so this first image is actually an image that I did on my iPad maybe a year ago or so. And it's supposed to be like bacteria under a microscope. It's hard to describe, so I'll just put the image up now. So yeah, the app that I used to design this one was called Affinity Designer, and it's a great software for the iPad and desktop PCs and Macs alike. That one sold for 36 cents. All right, carrying on, this next image is actually a drone shot. It's of a bunch of solar panels, and I got really close to the solar panels. Closer than I could if it was an actual photo, unless I was using like a telephoto lens. But the solar panels were behind a fence, so I would have to, you know, zoom through to get that shot. But anyways, I took this image, I think it was last year, and yeah, it's a pretty nice one. I'll put it up now, and that one sold for 36 cents as well. Yeah, so the drone I have is very much underutilized. It's a DJI Mini. I'll put an image of it up now. Yeah, I should be doing a lot more content with it, but I just don't, you know, because of all the restrictions on flying drones in the US. It's getting quite crazy, and there's even talk about banning all DJI products in general in the United States. Ridiculous, and it all comes down to money, by the way. Yeah, anyways, moving on. All right, so this next image is emblematic of why you should not shy away from taking certain stock photos, whether or not that area is saturated or not. Yeah, and it's just a typical shot. I would call it a snapshot of a bunch of US coins. And yeah, that one sold on Adobe Stock, and it's been selling, and in this instance it sold for 36 cents. So yeah, I've said it before, if it doesn't take you a significant amount of time to, or you don't have to go out of your way to capture certain images, especially when the content area is saturated, then do it, right? Just put it up there, and it's something that might sell one day. All right, and this next one is an image that I took in a video that I did a while back on a channel titled "Making Money from Your Trash," and it's just a bunch of paper grocery bags laid out on a white background and taken from top down. And yeah, there's lots of room for whatever graphics or copy or print they want to put on it. And that one sold for 36 cents. And this next image is also from a video that I did a while ago on the Canon 40D. It's a low spec for today APS-C camera that I got on KEH for $60. Yeah, it's like 10 or 12 megapixels, but anyways, this image that I took with that camera sold for 99 cents on Adobe stock. And yet again, it goes to show that it's not the gear that you're using, but rather the execution of the image that you're putting up on the agencies. Yeah, so long as whatever gear you're using meets the minimum requirement for the agencies, it's fine to use, right? You just have to know the limitations of your gear, right? So for example, with the Canon 40D, I would not use that in significant low light. I would use it when there's abundant available light or with a flash attached. All right, so last but not least, this next image is yet more prescription drugs on a prescription pad. And you know, you can see the pills are in the foreground. You can see the RX symbol off to the left there, and you can see just a hint of the pill bottle and the pill cap. And that one sold for $1.01. An odd sale amount, but that's what it was. All right, so this being Adobe stock, let's talk about what a lot of people want to hear, and that's AI images. And so interestingly, you know, I never thought this would happen, but it has. Interestingly, for the last 2 or 3 months now, AI images have been my top earners on Adobe stock, believe it or not. So for this month, I think AI images comprised about $26, $27 of my earnings. And that amounts to about 22% of my entire earnings. So that's pretty big. Here are the AI images that sold for me on Adobe stock for June. There's not a lot of different images here. It's more or less the same ones that I've showed last time. But yeah, these are the images that are selling consistently. And I don't mind if they're the same images, right? Anyways, I'll put them up now. All right, so that brings us to the end for Adobe stock and to the totals, right? So on Adobe stock in June, I sold a total of 154 images, and I made $118.82. A very consistent month for me on Adobe stock, and I hear that from most of the stock contributors on YouTube, that Adobe stock is one of the most consistent performer for them. Yeah, so if there's anyone looking to get into the stock photography game, I would steer them towards Adobe stock all day, every day. All right, so last but not least, we're gonna talk about Envato Elements. So I said in my last video that I haven't been uploading to Envato Elements, but I have started to upload to them again because I am taking images of people again, and I find that Envato Elements tends to want images with people in them. There's a lot of people on that are commenting in some of my videos asking me to do a video on Envato Elements, and specifically really how to get accepted into Envato Elements. And I don't have any big secret on how to get accepted, but I think what you do need to focus on, at least for the images that you're going to submit to show your portfolio, you want to lean heavily on images with people in them, because that's really what they are looking for. Once you are accepted, then you can start submitting other stuff and hope that they accept them. All right, so most of the images that I'm about to show are images that I've never featured before on this, on the earnings videos. So yeah, here we go, new content. Some of them are legitimately new content that I've uploaded recently, and some are just ones that I've never shown before. So let's start off with the ones that I have shown before and move into the not seen ones. All right, so this first image is a typical stock photo, right? It's just me sitting at a table, and I have, you know, right next to me a glass filled with coins, and it says savings on it. And you can see me in the background, like doing calculations, trying to work out a budget or whatnot. Anyways, that one sold, or that one earned on Envato $10.88 for June. All right, this next image is one that I did in Illustrator a while ago. I showed this one last month, I believe. It's just some gears with like business, goals, process, planning, and stuff like that written on the gears. And that one earned $4.87. This next image is very similar, but it just doesn't have any words on the gears, and that one earned $4.28. All right, and this next one was taken last year during apple season, and it's just my wife reaching out to get an apple, picking an apple from the tree, and that one earned $1.35. I really like this one. It really, you know, shows the process of picking apples, because you can see a lot of apples next to it, and yeah. All right, and this next image is a very joyful photo, and it's my brother and my wife. My brother used to own a convenience store, and I asked him to, you know, can I come and take some stock photos of you, like, you know, checking out someone at the cash register, and he said sure. So anyways, I did a bunch of photos that day, and they do sell continuously on I just have them up on Envato. I will get them up on the other agencies, but anyways, you can see the image here. It's my wife and my brother's looking at the camera laughing. You can see the cash register and some dollars on the counter there. And that one earned 57 cents on Envato Elements. There's a next one coming up that I'll talk about. Actually, let's do it now. So here's the next image that sold. That one earned 23 cents. So yeah, those are pretty fun photos. I really like those ones. Yeah, all right. So moving on, this next image is one that I created again for stock photography. And this was just a self-portrait. You know, I put on a business suit and a tie and whatnot. And I just, you know, did my typical depressed look and whatnot, just to show, like, you know, sadness in business. You know, probably your career isn't going as well as you want it to. Anyways, yeah, that one earned 35 cents on Envato. All right, and this last one is once again me just pouring out some pills in my hand, and I have like a sun flare coming off from the left, and that one earned 27 cents on Envato Elements. Yeah, and that pretty much wraps it up for the images that I want to talk about for Envato. Let's get into the totals. All right, so in total for June, I sold, like I said before, about 1,400 images or so on Envato Elements, and I made a total of $166.94. That's pretty bad for me on Envato Elements. So yeah, I definitely need to start uploading more in order to keep my earnings above like the 200s or so on Envato Elements. But it's not all that bad. Let's get to the total for June 2023. All right, so for the month of June 2023, I made $317.02. An average month for me in terms of stock photography. All right, so that's pretty much gonna do it for me, guys. I'm gonna get back to creating some more stock photos. And I just want to say before closing that if you got anything from this video, if you enjoyed it, if you found it entertaining or informational, please subscribe to the channel, ring that notification bell so you don't miss a video. And yeah, until next time, have a good one.